All right, so there's two bits of big NBA news amid a dry spell. The first one is are the Lakers are getting sold again, and so I'll start with that before getting into Russell Westbrook announcing his retirement. Because, like, if we're going to be completely honest, I would rather not work than play for the Kings. Granted, if the Kings offered me a vet minimum, I think I'd take it. Um, you know, unfortunately, being the worst team in the league isn't as valuable as it used to be. So it wouldn't even be an effective strategy for them trying to, rebuild through the draft. Um, so let's start out with the Lakers sale. So obviously, the Lakers were sold very recently, like maybe a year ago, for a valuation of 10 billion, the highest valuation for an NBA franchise ever. And I mean that would outpace probably most, if not all, baseball teams outside of maybe the Dodgers right now, and maybe the Yankees. And then on the NFL side, I think it would outpace some of the smaller market ones. In terms of sports franchises, the Lakers have got to be, I don't know what the Forbes thing is, but like, that stuff always take with a grain of salt, right? Like for years, Donald Trump was, you know, bullshitting his way to being on that list. But still, I mean, the reality is this is one of the most valuable sports franchises in the world, easily. I think I would have to imagine, even with the NFL, it's a top 20 valuation for a franchise. The fact that it got bought and then sold so quickly is just incredibly surprising, because the the reason why it's surprising is a few reasons. First and foremost, like, you don't buy a professional sports franchise as an asset in the same way that you buy, if someone would buy like a company or like whatever, right? Like, you buy these things because they basically, it's an investment that protects you against inflation. And there's like a bunch of people around the world that like basketball, and this is the best basketball league in the world, and no one's going to catch it anytime soon, if ever. And it's in one of the best markets in the world. It's like the most storied franchise, right? Like, you're buying the Lakers because you want to add something to your portfolio. If you're talking purely from an investment standpoint, you add something to your portfolio that's just like a really good asset that's going to be very protected against economic downturns and like all that stuff. Um, it's in a closed league, so you don't have to worry about, like, there's a salary cap, right? So there's just, it's a great investment. It's why baseball owners are going to fight for a salary cap. It's why all the American owners that buy Premier League teams like want to do a salary cap. It's because it just allows them to be bad at running teams and still make money, because these dudes suck. Generally, genuinely, these people and generally do suck quite a lot. Um, so you just don't buy a team and then sell it this quickly, right? Now, if you think about just the valuation, it went from 10 billion to 12.5 billion very quickly. For most things, you do just kind of fucking sell if something goes up by 25% and someone's willing to pay you that right now. It's almost, that's a good idea. Like, especially when we're talking about that type of money, right? It's not like, I don't know, like something that's worth a dollar, something worth $1.25, like maybe, but like, that it's not the same thing. It's an extra. He doesn't have full control of the team, so it's not an extra 2.5 billion. But you get the point. It's a big windfall, and the that's maybe that's the rationale. I think there's another one, but then there's the reality of this is just a weird time to have bought an NBA franchise and then sell it. The one reason is that expansion has been bandied about pretty significantly over the past X amount of years. It's been a while that the league has said that they're probably going to do some form of expansion, and they'll almost certainly add two teams, because the fact that they had 29 teams in the league was just fucking insane. Um, so to join the NBA, you have to pay an expansion fee. And the expansion fee, it doesn't go to the players. It's not basketball related revenue in the way that the money is split between the players and the owners. So you get in, you buy this team, and you're going to get a piss ton of money. Like, so it's just, it would be a weird time to sell. Now, after expansion were to happen, if you want to sell, I get it. You collect your check, then you cash in again. So that makes it just from a business standpoint. I don't buy that. Well, they just offered me 25% more of what I bought it for, and I'm going to sell it, right? The Lakers are one of the few franchises in the NBA where you can run it and you can run it aggressively in terms of like, player acquisition and spending, and you still are going to make money. And you're going to make enough money that you're going to like be pulling money out. It's not just that the value of the franchise is going to go up. It's that like you are actually going to get money. Because there's, as much as people complain about owners not spending enough, which I agree, or being scared to spend, the most of these franchises, like if they spend at certain levels, they're not getting money out of it, right? And for most businesses, that's kind of the goal, right? To get money out of it. Now, because these owners aren't like CEOs, quote unquote, they're not like giving themselves a salary, quote unquote, to run it, right? Like, major corporations and like all these AI companies, like they make zero money. They just hemorrhage cash, and it doesn't matter because the stock price is good or keeps rising because somehow that's how business works, right? Like Elon Musk with Tesla, it's like the same thing. But the Lakers aren't like that. It's an asset that is going to probably keep going up, and you're going to be able to pull money out of it, or basically just have it generate, liquidity, real liquidity for you, and then you're about to get this expansion fee. So it does make a lot of business sense, and I think the main idea is that Mark Walter is facing some like a Department of Justice probe, and this is where the whole thing gets a little weird, or a little conspiratorial. I don't normally like conspiracies, but at the same time, the Department of Justice is probing him for probably like legitimate shady behavior, right? Like I like it has to do with like loans and shit. Um, but Joshua Kushner and Bob Iger are going to buy him. Now, Joshua Kushner is the brother of Jared Kushner, and he just very recently tried to do some bullshit with the World Cup. So he clearly wants to get in on sports, and he clearly is utilizing the power of being uh, the brother to the son in law of the president. I guess that's how it would work. And so you can see how people are going to connect the dots here, right? The government is investigating this man who happens to own the Lakers or is the majority owner. And the reality is this, I think it's just much more likely that he knows he's fucked and he needs to cash out. And the Lakers or something, he could sell very quickly for a profit to pay whatever shit he needs to pay back, blah blah blah, right? I mean, that would make the most sense to me. Just that this is a dude in a bad situation, and when people are in bad financial, legal slash financial situations, they sometimes to sell some shit off, and this seems to be the case. Now, as for the Joshua Kushner and Bob Iger thing, I don't think, like, I think if you were to ask Adam Silver, does he want these guys to be NBA owners, I think he would probably say, if you give him truth serum, like, no, we don't want this. Problem is, like, the other NBA owners are much more aligned with Trump and, his fucking cronyism than the average person, than the people that actually play the game, people that, go to these games. So this will be interesting to see, because I do think there is a lot of pressure on Adam Silver to like kind of get the owners in check, with what's going on with Tom Dundon in Portland. Just like, look, those guys are his boss, right? But they're like, he has got 30 bosses, right? And so if one of them acts out and he can kind of smack them around, if the other 29 or 20 of them don't like the behavior. So, but then there's the other issue of just always like, owners basically, they might go, you know what, I don't think it's right for this guy to move a team. I don't want these people buying a team, or I don't want someone being selling it to this team. But at the same time, they don't want to set the precedent where that's something owners can do, because if they want to sell the team, if they want to relocate their team, they want to be able to fucking do it. So it's basically these dudes are willing to just let bad shit happen because they want to be able to do bad shit themselves one day. All right, so Lakers, you know, we'll see where this goes. I think under this new agreement, Genie Bus would still retain the governorship. Like, I mean, would it blow anyone's mind if Walters was like, "I'm not dealing with"? No, I think he's just in trouble. All right, Russell Westbrook announced his retirement, and I mean, it was about time. I think you're playing. It's playing your final season on a bullshit bad Sacramento team is kind of like the Hakeem and the Raptors jersey, the Patrick Ewing and the Orlando jersey. But Westbrook didn't stick with one team his entire career, and then at the very end go to a team for a sad final season. He's kind of more had the Shaquille O'Neal, Moses Malone kind of arc where he kind of just, it's probably closer to Shaquille O'Neal, where he just, bounced around once he stopped being a superstar. And yeah. All right. So, but Westbrook, historical perspective, he's going to retire and he's going to have the most triple doubles in NBA history at the time of his retirement. Unfortunately, that record is not going to stand for quite very long because Nikola Jokic is breathing down his neck. I don't have it up right here, but I have to imagine Jokic could probably get there, um, you know, this season. Yeah, he's at 198 and Westbrook number one at 209. Oscar Robertson's at 181. Magic Johnson at 138. So he's not going to have a hold on it like Oscar Robertson did for the length that he did. But still, retiring with the most triple doubles in NBA history at the time of retirement is an achievement. He never won a title, but he's a 9-time All-Star, 9-time All-NBA, won the MVP. Probably should have led with that. He was on the 75th anniversary team. Granted, the 75th anniversary team is like kind of fucking insane because Adrian Dantley's not on it. So who the fuck cares? 2-time scoring champ, 3-time assist champ. Just the accolades go on and on and on. And let's see, from 2016-17 to 2018-19, he averaged a triple-double, and then he did it one more time in his lone season with the Wizards. What a weird season that was. And the thing with Westbrook is the reason why he bounced around for basically the final 5, 6, 7 years of his career is that he just like wasn't good enough anymore to play the way he played. And I think that is kind of obscured in a lot of people's eyes, like how good he was when he was actually a great player. He probably didn't deserve to win MVP the year he won it. There were other guys who had like better cases statistically. If you look at the advanced metrics, I mean, like he averaged 31.6 points, but his effective field goal percentage was 47.6. Now he got to the line a bunch, and that was his final good free throw shooting season. I mean, Westbrook's just a crazy player. Like, so like, by the end, so from his rookie season to his age 28 season when he won the MVP, 82% free throw shooter. That's like really good. Like he couldn't hit a jumper, but he 82% free throw shooter, got to the line a bunch. Like that was a big part of his scoring value. He got downhill. He created, he was a good playmaker out of that. And he got to the free throw line and made up for the fact that like he wasn't that efficient. from the floor. So the overall offensive impact was good. But after that season, he shot 73.7% in 2017-18. And then he shot 76.3% in his one season in Houston, but he was never above 70% ever again. He was in the mid 60s for most of it. And so from 2017-18 to 2025-26, he shot 69% from the free throw line. I don't know how. I've never seen that happen for a player, but one of the interesting quirks of his career is just like that abandoning him, and that really hurt him in the later stages of his career because it made the scoring inefficiency more of a problem. Like the fact that he couldn't shoot was not a big deal if you're getting the line that much. When you're getting the line but then missing that many, it starts becoming a bigger issue. But he was always a great passer, and he played incredibly hard. I have my issues with Westbrook in the latter stages of his career. The reason I got into basketball writing is I just on my own wrote something about how the Chris Paul for Russell Westbrook trade to Houston was basically just an awful trade like there was no justification for making that trade. And this is basically predicated on the idea of like I use statistics that aren't points and rebounds and assists. And it was just like, look, like Paul had taken a step back that year after being integral to them being the best team in the league during the fucking KD Warriors run, which like doesn't get enough credit for. He took a step back, but he was still better statistically than Westbrook. And it's like it didn't matter that he was older. It's just like players generally are just like if they're better, like decline is generally pretty gradual. Like sometimes guys really do fall off a cliff, but most times it's pretty gradual. And so if a guy's higher, he's going to be better longer. And like Chris Paul ended up being better longer than fucking Russell Westbrook. Not to shit on Russell Westbrook or anything, but that's why I basically got into basketball writing is because of that. So Westbrook, basically being a Westbrook hater is like my origin story, if we're going to be completely honest. But all of the stuff about in the second half of his career, like, going to Houston and them having to play micro ball to like basically make it work. And that was fun, but they weren't going anywhere. Then he goes to Washington where they chased like the 8th seed and they sure as hell they got it. And they won one playoff game. I was actually at that one. As I believe Embiid went out with a knee injury. And then he got traded to Los Angeles. And that was an absolute disaster. Then he ended up with the Clippers for a season and a half. And then he went to Denver. And then he finished out in Sacramento. And like, it was always the same thing because, like, I mean, for better or for worse, Russell Westbrook played the way Russell Westbrook played. And I think a lot of people kind of held it against his character that he wasn't able to change his style of play. And I just think the reality is that, like, one, it's really hard to change the way you play, but also the way he played basketball and his skill set, like, he just was never going to be able to be like a productive player, not playing with his hair on fire, not having the ball a fair amount, right? Like he couldn't shoot. Like it was just one of those realities of him as a player. It wasn't like watching Carmelo Anthony, who is a great shooter with size, just refused to like become a floor spacer until he was basically cooked, right? Like those final few seasons in Portland, like he wasn't good, but like he was playing the right role and like it was working. But if he'd done that 5 years earlier, like those 5 years he could have been an important player on teams that like really did something. And I don't see Westbrook as having the issue of having the ability to make the change and just not taking it. It was more, he was just always one of these players where, this was going to be how it ended. But if we go into the advanced stats, because I think the advanced stats are always fun. His MVP season, he led the league in box plus minus, led the league in VORP. He was absurdly good. He had an insane usage, obviously. But his peak seasons, which I'm going to say are pretty much, his peak wasn't as long as you would think, and it wasn't as high as you would think. But 2012-13, um, was his first season where he had, or I guess really, yeah, I mean, actually, it was pretty long. 2010-11 is his first season we had a BPM over 4, box plus minus over 4. That's good, not incredible. He then has 4.4 in 2012-13, then 5.5, then 8.1, 7.8, 11.1 in the MVP season, 6.3, and then 5.2. And then once he leaves Oklahoma City, it's 1.5, 3.7. His first season in Los Angeles was negative 1.6. And really, after he left Washington, after his age 32 season, he was basically a very unuseful player. But that stretch from his age 22 to 30 season, I mean, 6.2 BPM, 47.4 VORP, right? That's all time stuff. That's like a real Hall of Fame peak. And over that period of time, he led the league in assist percentage the final 3 seasons, usage twice, offensive BPM once. Right? He was a great player. It was just unfortunately he had the ability to accumulate stats in such a way that I kind of understand why it ended this way, where by the time he gets to Houston, he's not the same player because they had James Harden, so the ball's not going to be in his hand as much, and he was declining physically, and his free throw shooting fucking had abandoned him, um, and so it's just but he was still able to put up numbers even after he left OKC. And even with the Lakers, where it was bad, right? That 3 season run where he goes from Houston, Washington, and Los Angeles, he averaged 22.2 points per game, 8.6 assists, 8.9 rebounds. Right? He was still putting up box score numbers. He was still going out there and accumulating stats. And that's unfortunately kind of been the issue with the back half of his career, is that he was still able to accumulate stats playing this way. And it's kind of hard for a player to think they're cooked if they're still able to go out there and get 20 points, 10 assists, and 10 rebounds in a fucking game, right? Cooked players can't do that. But yeah, so Westbrook is one of those guys where I think now that he's retired, people will kind of stop hating on him so much because he's not playing anymore, and people will kind of go, you know what, people weren't hard on him. He got paid a piss ton of money, and he was very defiant with the way people were critical of him. If he had just kind of been like, you know what, guys, I know you guys want me to play this way, but this is how I play, and if I play that the way you want to play, I'm a useless player. I'm not in the NBA. This is the only way I can do it. If he just said that, I think people backed off. But he was very much like, fuck off. And I think a lot of people really like him for that. And I don't know if he's the type of dude you from just watching him play, you just don't know. I can't tell if he'd be something that would be great to play with or awful to play with. I think it'd be kind of a mix of both. And I think it's kind of like the Russell Westbrook experience is it's I don't know, it's like doing meth or something, right? It's really awesome, but then there's all these weird downsides and weird shit happening at the same time, and you're at the end of it, you're kind of was I having a good time or was I having a bad time? Maybe a little bit of both. But this is a Hall of Famer, right? A no doubt Hall of Famer, one of the best players in NBA history to not win a champion, not the one, yeah, one of the best players in NBA history to not win a championship, right? He wasn't as good as Charles Barkley. Um, I don't think he's as good as Chris Paul, but not as good as John Stockton. We're just list, you go down the list. Um, not as good as Karl Malone, but he's in that next tier after those guys that were really, 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 really top end MVP level players. Obviously, Chris Paul never won an MVP. Probably should have or could have, but Paul at his peak was at a whole another level, right? And that peak was a little bit more sustainable and wasn't so reliant on kind of crazy usage, because as much as that Westbrook triple double season, he led the league in BPM, you get enough touches, you're gonna, and you're as good as he was, you're gonna put up a pretty monster statistics because like advanced metrics, you know, because like they understand that like volume is like being you doing that stuff is valuable because you're generating the value. Um, so yeah, Russell Westbrook, like I'm sure he's going to do something interesting. Once his career is over, I'm sure he's going to be more likable once his career is over because the competitive nature of him playing basketball like the won't be a part of the conversation. So Russell Westbrook, enjoy retirement. You've earned it. You're going to the Hall of Fame. I'm glad you didn't go back for like another year in Sacramento on the vet minimum. Like, what the fuck is the point of that? Enjoy the rest of your life. Enjoy your family. Like, keep doing the weird fashion shit you're doing. Keep doing Hennessy commercials. It was fun to like. Here's the thing: like, he was frustrating, but like, it was fun to watch him play, and him chasing that triple double record was like kind of crazy. It was pretty insane. It was pretty awe inspiring. At the same time, it was like pretty clear what he was doing. And just like everything, like there's not like Russell Westbrook. He is the most. There's always the duality. Like everything he does, you're like there's like the good and the bad. And he was a very interesting basketball player for that. And hey, man, great career. I'm sure you're never gonna watch this, but fuck it. Like, good job, Russ.